A weapon. Oh, I can do that all day. This is the brand new Mercedes-Benz EQ Blue. I mean EQB, and it's got a lot of blue. And in this video, we're going to take a look around the outside, the inside. We'll see what makes the GLB electric and what they've done to make it different. And then we'll take it for a drive and see how it performs on the road. And then we'll see what it's like to live with, what it's like to charge, what your range is like and everything like that. And then talk about some ownership numbers at the end. So let's go check it out. And welcome to another Greg Dennis review. So from the outside, you can see that it's still distinctly a Mercedes-Benz GLB. There's no mistaking this shape for anything else. But up front here, you can see where the biggest changes have been made. And obviously because there's no engine in there anymore, you now don't need the grills and the vents and everything like that you would have needed before to help the engine breathe. So up front here, you've got a new design grille that's gloss black, and they've closed off the vents in the front here too, as you can see. And also one of the standout features of the car is that you've now got this light strip that runs across the whole front and joins the two headlights together, which is actually fiber optic. It's not LED. Those are LED, but not those. So interesting fact. And then coming down the side of the car here, another one of the bigger differences is the wheels. And these are optional wheels, but what's cool is that they have got blue inserts inside them. So it kind of brings together the electric theme that they've got going on here, because you've got blue in the headlights, as you can see over there. You've got blue in the wheels, and you've got blue on the side of the car. And then continuing down the side of the car, you can see you've got these gloss black accents that range from the side mirrors all the way across the beading, across the doors, which is also quite nice. It takes away the overly chromeness that you would normally get from a GLB, and I think it makes it look a little bit more street, and it's got a little bit more cred for that, well, for me at least. And yes, the distinctly GLB shape that you can see going on here with this raised hip. And around the back, another one of the biggest difference that there is on this EQB to set it apart from the GLB are these lights. So normally you would have had singular lights on each side, but here they've given it that light bar that kind of joins the two together and makes it stand out as a EQB. You've also got the EQB badging on the back over here to distinguish it as the 350, although that's the only one you do get in SA, but still, that's what you're driving. And yes, it is a 4MATIC, so you do have four-wheel drive, and it comes standard with that. And then coming back to the rear design, so as I've pointed out here, you do have new lights. So because you have this light bar in front here, they've had to move the Merc logo down slightly, and by doing that, they've allowed it to get turned into a handle. So when you lift the handle, or the emblem, the boot now opens automatically, which is quite cool. And then just coming to the back here, you can see you've got ample room and quite a few nooks and crannies and places to put stuff and storage and all of that. And then what you'll see here is boxes, and these boxes or bags that actually got your charge cables in. And in this box here is the 3-point plug. So this is the one that you'd use to charge off of the, the normal 3-point plugs that you have in your house. So this will charge, or because it's coming from your wall in the house, it charges at about just under 2 kilowatts per hour. So that's really slow, and will probably take about 24 hours to charge your car fully. And then here you've got almost like your mobile charging cable. So this is what you would use at the charging points at your malls or dealerships or anywhere like that. It's for AC charging, so it's not your super fast DC charger, but it's still cool to have that. So if the DC charger is currently occupied, you do have a cable here to plug into the side, and it gives you an opportunity to charge wherever you are. And then coming into the inside of the EQB, if you've been into a GLB before, you'll notice that it is very, very familiar space inside here. But they have made it different, because on your inside menu, if you do turn it on, and it does connect, and you go home, you'll see you've got a bespoke EV menu. So in this menu here, you're able to see everything statistically about your EV car. And you are able to actually look here at your closest charge points. It'll bring everything up here, so you are able to find a charger in the nick of time if you ever need it. And then this does operate as your normal standard infotainment display. So you are able to connect anything that you need to with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You've got your comfort settings, and you've got your very famous ambient lighting from Mercedes-Benz, which is quite cool. And then when you do come into the driver's display, here you are able to also look at everything that you need to from an EV point of view. So I've currently got the display on here where you can see your consumption on the left. You can also look at how your driving style is on the right hand side. And then the little car drives all the way to the little charger and tells you what your range is. So that's quite cool, and it's quite animated. But if you want to, you can also change the display to whatever you want it to be. So here you can also just go to like your standard sport, and when you do that, hold on, back. And when you do that, it kind of acts as your normal car. So there would be your speed, and over here would be how much power you're using at any given time. And when you do brake or lift off the accelerator, you'll see that your needle dips into the bottom of that circle, and it shows you how much you're charging. Some other cool styling differences that you do get in the EQB is you do have this like LED detailing that opens up here or brightens up at night, which is actually quite nice. It's a really standout feature. And you've got these like rose gold accents on your aircons, which wasn't in the previous car, but I don't know, it's still a nice touch to have in here. And then coming down, you do also have the standard separated climate control, which is quite cool. You don't have to dig through the menus up here, but when you do actually turn it on, it will bring it up on screen. So you are able to access and change things there as well as down here. And then from a comfort point of view, you do have these really comfortable seats. With it being an EV, these are man-made leather seats with some contrasting fabric in the middle here, which is quite nice. I think we need to fight to have really good comfortable fabric seats back. It doesn't always have to be leather, because fabric is still really nice and comfortable. But to contrast that, the steering wheel is leather. So while you are saving the world and saving all the animals and that with your seats, you are still holding on to proper cowhide at your hands here, which is nice, because there's no better feeling than a really comfortable leather steering wheel. And then speaking of the steering wheel, you obviously do have everything on the left hand side here to operate your phone calls and then to navigate through your infotainment. And then on the right hand side here, you've got everything to operate your cruise control as well as your driver's display in front of you. Up top, you also have a panoramic sunroof. So if you switch this open here, it'll open up the full length of the car, which is really nice, and it brings a lot of light inside here. And then looking at some storage and other creature comforts, you do have a pretty good sized glove box here with a nice little shelf there to store anything you need. The door bins are also quite nice and big, and what is cool about this car is that the storage actually goes further back behind this panel here. And if you look at the front here, you do have this almost like sliding gate, which is quite nice, where you are able to charge your phone. You've got some drink holders, and then in the middle here you also have this pad which helps you navigate through your display up front here. So you'll see when you move your hand around, things on the screen are changing as well, which is quite cool. You've also got a switch here to toggle between your drive modes. So you'll see you've got individual, sport, comfort, eco, and in individual you're able to set up the type of drive you want. You can see you're able to change your engine response, the ESP, as well as your steering and how that feels, which is quite nice. You've also got this armrest down in the middle here, which opens and is nice and big, and you have 2 USB-C slots in the front here. And then just to close it, you do that, and it's really comfortable, and when you're driving it's nice and soft on your elbows too, which is quite cool. And then coming to the driver's side, you've obviously got access to all of the window switches here, your lock and unlock, and then everything to operate your side mirrors too. And yeah, some nice detailing on the doors too. As you can see, there's ambient lighting here, and then just looking at your door bin, and you can see my hand disappears back here. So quite decent storage on the doors, if I say so myself. And as you can see on the doors, you do have a Burmester audio system, which as usual in a Merc, absolutely bangs. So nothing to complain about from an audio point of view in here. It's always a dream to listen to. It thumps like you can't imagine. And then coming into the back, there's plenty of space in here. And that was one of the good things about a GLB, is that the legroom was great. There was lots of space for your feet and all of that. Sorry, don't know what that is, but let's move it. Yeah, there was always plenty of legroom, but obviously with this being an EV, the batteries are sitting underneath the floor here. So your footwell is a little bit more raised higher than what it normally would be. So you do tend to have a lot of gap between the seat and your legs here. But if I go and sit here with it in my current driving position, so I would be there, and yeah, lots of space in front here for my legs. And then for your passengers, you do have the fans here for the aircon, as well as an additional USB-C slot down in the front there. And then if I pull down the armrest, it does come with cup holders here for each passenger, which is really, really convenient. This is nicer than what is in the C-Class and what I've noticed in other Mercs, the one that you got to pop out and it kind of opens up for an iPad and that, which is always a little bit flimsy and it doesn't actually open every time. So this is cool. And with this being an EV, I'm pretty sure that you are expecting there to be a frunk over here, which, you know, it's an EV, so there might be. but there isn't a frunk, so no, there's no storage in the front here to do anything with. And because this is based off of a GLB, the platform's not going to change, so there is going to be no space to do anything else here. So what they've done is they've put everything electric in front. So this would be your electric motor that you have in the front. You have one in the front and one in the back, and it is mounted to a 66 kilowatt hour battery, so that's going to give you about 400 kilometers of range. And from a power point of view, it's actually quite impressive. You are going to get about 215 kilowatts and 520 torque, and when we go for a drive, you'll see what I mean. It's really punchy. But yeah, that's it for the EQB. As you can see, it's the electrified GLB. It's a really nice package, so let's take it for a drive and let's see how it performs. Okay, driving the Mercedes-Benz EQB, and I need to give credit where credit is due, because this car drives like a dream. You've obviously got the extra added weight to the car because of the battery, so it gives you your lower sense of gravity, so the car feels a lot more planted and stuck to the road than a regular car or like a regular GLB. Having recently driven the GLB, I can distinctly feel and see the difference when driving, because it's a lot more planted. The steering is a lot more direct too, so it feels a lot sportier as well. And apart from just being friendlier to the world by not using fossil fuels and stuff like that, which I'm not going to get into, but the other benefit of driving an EV is that you have the ultimate performance. So as I've mentioned previously, this has got two electric motors, one on the front and one on the rear axle, and it's mounted to a 66 kilowatt hour battery. So that's just going to define the range and how much actual energy you can store. And with those two motors, you are able to get out 215 kilowatts and 520 torque. That's nuts. And when you put your foot down, it goes. Yes. Trust me, I would do my lanyard test here. If you follow me on Instagram, Instagram or TikTok, you would have seen I did a test in the EQA where I hung a lanyard here and I showed you the type of force that this car has on nature. It almost feels like you're going to be changing the world's or changing the Earth's orbital axis with how much pull you're getting from this car when you put your foot down. Damn, it's a lot of fun to drive. It's very addictive. You want to keep your foot planted at all times, but you are keeping a close eye on your range. And speaking of that, you do get, oh my gosh, let me find my language somewhere. You are able to get about 400 kilometers of range out of this. So depending on how you drive, they do help you out because you get regen braking. So when you do brake or you take your foot off of the accelerator, the car automatically slows down, and it does that by using those electric motors in reverse. So that energy then gets stored into the batteries to give you extra range. But what's cool is that because this comes from a GLB, you would have had paddle shifters here for your gears, but the paddle shifters have stayed, and now they control the amount of resistance that your regen can give you. So if you prefer a normal drive, then you adjust it accordingly, and if you prefer quite strong regen braking, then you'll adjust the one on the left hand side as far as possible. And for me, that's the first thing I do when I get into an EV, is I make the regen as hard as possible so that I only end up doing one pedal driving, which is quite cool. So here I'll drive, I'll take my foot off and I'm slowing down. I'll drive off again, I'll take my foot off and I'm slowing down. And every time I slow down, you can see that the needle in front of me is turning into the charging phase. And if I'm not charging, it's pointing to the top here to show how much power you're using. And apart from just the regen braking helping you stay more fuel efficient, stay more energy efficient to get more range, you do have different drive modes as well. So with your drive modes, you can choose between sport, comfort, eco, and individual. And if you put it into eco, it's obviously going to change the responsiveness of the accelerator, and it's going to make it a little bit more sluggish, but that's with the intention of trying to save as much energy as possible. But another interesting fact there is that if you do leave it in eco, it also limits your top speed to 130. Don't ask me how I found out. I heard from a friend. Yes. And then the driving comfort, and as I've mentioned, because it's got a low sense of gravity, the car feels a lot more planted. I do have to commend it that it is also quite a it's a comfortable drive. It's not very hard, so you are able to absorb the bumps and imperfections in the road quite nicely without being too jarred. This is driving on 19-inch wheels, and the previous EV, it was the EQA that I had, and they had put the 20-inch rims on that car, and you felt every bump that you went over. It wasn't too harsh, but I can definitely feel a difference in this car with having a little bit smaller wheels, but you do feel a difference. It's a lot more comfortable, and you do have these two armrests here which are padded quite nicely, and so it keeps your elbows nice and comfortable, so you end up having a really nice seating position because these seats are comfortable too, as I've spoken about before, and the steering wheel's in a nice position too, and you are able to adjust it however you need to. So yeah, crawling around in slow EV mode in eco, putting it back into comfort or even sport, it turns it into a really fast snail into a weapon. Oh, I can do that all day. And there was a strange sound from the brakes there. I do find that it does do that sometimes, and I don't know if it's just the system between the normal braking and regen or something, but it does end up grinding a little bit sometimes. Only sometimes, not all the time. So yeah, there's not a lot that I can actually fault this car on. They've done a really good job with it. It drives really nicely, it's comfortable, it's got all the power and speed that you could ever want, with the ability to keep it quite efficient too. So depending on how you drive, you could probably get your 400 range out of it, but if you are quite heavy on the pedal, I would expect probably between 300 to 350 kilometers of range, which isn't too bad. And yes, as comfortable and as quick and futuristic and all of that this car is, it comes with what I feel is a pretty hefty price tag. And this one in particular sells for just over 1.3 million rand. The EQA that I had before was just over 1.1. So getting into an EV is not a cheap exercise at all, but again, it's going to come down to the target market. If you've got the money for the car, I mean, go ahead. I definitely recommend this one. Besides for the Jaguar I-Pace, this is the only other EV that I've had the opportunity of driving, which I hope to expand soon. But yeah, even if I had to compare this to the Jaguar I-Pace, which is far more expensive, a lot quicker, a very similar car, but I think there's a lot more bang for your buck here. So it is a Mercedes-Benz, it's just as comfortable, it's not as quick, but you're still getting all the benefits of instant torque and everything that you want from an EV here, and I really enjoy it. And then what's it like to live with an EV? And I must say that it's really simple. It's like driving any other car, but instead of going to the fuel station to fill up, and it takes you, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes depending on the service that you're getting, you get this Mercedes-Benz, you buy it from Merc, and you actually get a complimentary or free 11 kilowatt hour wall box installed into your garage, and that's installed into your house before you even bring the car home. So you bought the car, you bring it home, the wall box is there ready for you to charge the car with, and it's as simple as plugging the car in when you get home. You get up in the morning, the car is fully charged with an 11 kilowatt charger. I'm gonna guess you're probably gonna take about 8 hours to fill it up completely, and when you go to bed at night, you might have 1 or 2 instances of load shedding that might affect it, but you're still going to get ample range out of the time that it actually has been charging. So don't let load shedding and everything like that deter you. If you own an EV, or this one in particular, you are going to have a wall box at home. You can charge it properly. You don't have to use the 3-point plug charger that's going to take about 24 hours to charge the car. You're not going to have this because Merc has said that you are going to be getting a free wall box with every EV that you buy from them. So that's really nice. And then if you aren't at home and you need to charge the car, You can use the EV menu here through your infotainment that you can find your closest charge point. And when you get to that charge point, you can go and find, and hopefully it'll be available for you to use. And you then use the DC charger. So that'll be, when you look at it, it'll be the round one with the little 2 points or little 2 prongs underneath it. That'll identify it as the DC one, which is the faster charging unit that you can use. And once you've plugged that into the car, it'll generally be a 30 kilowatt hour. Sometimes you'll find a 60 kilowatt hour one, which is really quick. So you go plug your car into one of those, you go and do your shopping, you come back 30 minutes later and you've gone from 20% to 80% in that time. And that's really convenient. It's got nothing, it's taken no extra time out of your day. You're doing the shopping you normally would, and while your car's parked, it's charging. So that's really simple. And you'll get a card with the car that it's an RFID card that you'll use to charge the car with. So when you get to the station, you've plugged it into the car, you go and tap the card at the machine, and that's going to then obviously activate the charge for you, and that then gets put against your account that you then pay for. And it's not that expensive either. I think it works between like 4 or 5 rand depending on where you go per kilowatt hour. So if you do the math of, if you want to fill your 60 odd kilowatt hour battery, it's going to be about 250 rand, and you're getting 400 kilometers range, and that's not bad. So we've now come to the end of the review, and it's time to do the GDR test. So should you get the car, should you drive the car, take it for a test drive, or should you remove it from the list of cars that you're looking at? And I'm definitely going to recommend that you get this car. For the EQA, I recommended that you go and drive it, or have a look at it and things like that. But I think that there's so much more to offer in this EQB that I would say that you should go and get it. So if you're in the market for an EV and you've got 1.3 million rand to put towards this car, then I wouldn't hesitate it. I would go ahead, drive it, see it's for you, but at the back of your mind know that I've said you should go and buy it, because you're getting a lot of space. It's very comfortable. With this being the 350, you're getting all the power that you could ever need. You shouldn't need more power than this, to be honest with you. I mean, it might get dangerous after that. So yeah, please go ahead, go check out the EQB, go buy it if you've got the money for it. Get into the EQ world. You'll get a charger at home from Mercedes-Benz complimentary. So yeah, thank you. That's the end of the review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit more about this car. And if you want to learn a little bit more about other cars, then yeah, make sure you subscribe. And as I've said, if you enjoyed this video, drop a like too. I'd really appreciate that. So yeah, thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.